strong leadership, not only from the members of our government, the leadership within, but also from our leaders, and that's on both sides of the aisle.
Well, when people hear they got a really good old police department, they freak out. They think, oh my God, actually redesign safety. How did it work?
It was a struggle. I needed bipartisan support, as Captain Ross mentioned. So we dismantled the city's department on the same day that we developed and put in place the county department. So that had never been done before in New Jersey. We think it's never been done before in the nation. But thanks to the great leadership and dedication of the members of our department, we have formed tremendous partnerships with our residents. We've earned the trust of our residents, and that's where we see the starts. When your residents view you as someone you can trust, someone you can have faith in, someone you can talk to, you can be able to fight crime expeditiously as we have here.
Let's not training, Captain, because you have cops on the streets. But unlike other cities, you only got 5 excessive force on the planes at all last year. How much of the answer is training officers properly to do their best work?
As the area to the key components of the transition. Again, the leadership, not the funding, but investing in the long-term success of the agency. Started the drill where we talked about the sanctity of life and putting sound policy in place amongst other things. Training on that foundation, and we worked with several different entities across the country to help develop what we believe to be effective training of our officers. The key component is to sustain that training over time to really make that cultural shift. So now we use times and talents. We should still know that our officers, as you stated, carry hazardous challenges. They're going to deal with conflict on a daily basis. And we need to make sure that they're recognizing threats and not creating all this creative activity situations. And it will, at the end of the day, be escalated to the best of our ability. And if and when force is used in our city, we know that we exhausted all the time to that. Officers are doing what they're trying to do, the policy that we have in place supports that.
There's your jobs, there's your, and that's when things start really dangerous. We saw crime spike in the decades ago, when big companies like Campbell Soup packed up and left. And now that the city is safer, all these new businesses come back.
We have a $2 car bills and investment in Kansas City since the situation improved. We have Subaru, Campbell Soup, Holtec, Philadelphia 76ers, all now the headquarters in Kansas City. Even our the unemployment rate in Kansas City had dropped to a historic low as well. Just under 70% March of during the pandemic. However, we still using that trend of diversity. Companies in Kansas City are hiring residents, and that's a big part of fighting crime as well. But it's an economic opportunity for your residents, and that's what we're doing in the city. But that would not be possible without the improvements in public safety.
I do want to stay on that, because there are people in government that have our department. But what if people make up less than a quarter of Kansas City? How much progress have you made recruiting community members, locals who live in Camden, to then be charged with protecting?
I think that a lot of work in progress. There's been prior researches that we've had since our inception, trying to consistently review and also workforce. And as I say, it's now the best suited today to ensure that our residents are and make up a tremendous percentage of our agency. And it is a work in progress, and I think it's a great improvement.
Where you got that? I-70 and one shot of all cases in New Jersey. What we call private path. Us to hire officers by running outside. Most of actually was the process. So we were able to actually do it in now. Recruit and more and more workforce.
mean, outside of routine?
No, not really, but there's this hiring process in New Jersey, called civil service, which is archaic, racially biased, culturally biased, and prevent us from hiring within the community. We have laws recently passed that allows us to now circumvent that process and to hire folks directly from the community based on their qualifications, not out of money for some civil service.
It's okay, racially biased, culturally biased. Thank you so much for coming this morning and all that you do. Come up, Holy Spirit speaks out for the first time about the control of power has had over money, her finances, and even her body. These are new details next. You don't want to miss this. More protection, more sun, more joy. Each of us. The sun connections those and their friends. You teach people to sleep.
Get out of here, mouse! Each of us has a different story, but here this family isn't about where you come from. It's about where you're going. You might not recognize each other as you come.
They're thirsty.
Recognize each
Yes.
other as we're relationship. There's only one family and one community. Right now, yours. You're not a scale on season 5 basketball. You're going to stash one shirt, all purchase 18% financing plus not only days for 90 days.
They're ready to tear it. They're all large things. I don't hold you together. Or otherwise don't think that you're from water. Smart culture terrorist. Yeah, then we lost the other ones.
Some say this is not a greatest challenge. Governments at record debt, inflation rising, currencies falling, vaccines centuries prices. I had an unfair choice. Lived through the crash in 2019, an Airbnb called watched mortgages played that would cite a truly Greek tragedy. Now if you like, with one companion who's been with me for millennia, etching his choo-choos, who doesn't choose you? The physical state of the digital world, improving the touch. My strongest ally, the closest asset, the closest really how our futures.
So a lot of chickens there, the outdoor crows, the outdoor culture, well, cows. They're all trying to cut up the, I still say you don't matter. You got a small house. You got to do whatever you ever small house. Yeah, 4 hours. I'm also looking for it.
So you started
Get your right shirts and that.
so you started to tell you condition offers changes. Taking the process while we be more instantly increases blood pressure risk. Side effects of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration, and neighbors and problems. Wake up to what's possible with Workbus. Unit is $10 per prescription. Ask your healthcare provider about Workbus today.
This morning, the case being closely watched across the country, and it could have big implications for how we treat those who face mental health challenges. Britney Spears fights to end her conservatorship. Grammy-winning 39-year-old pop star speaking out in court yesterday, pleading with the judge to defend it, and deceased on the rock. This morning, Britney Spears demanding to regain control of her life, testifying remotely in court Wednesday. The 39-year-old lashed out at her father and accused her to manage her care and finances for 14 years, calling them threatening, abusive, saying she was forced to endure oppressive conditions, comparing to slavery. I lied and told the whole world I'm happy because I've been in denial. I am traumatized. I can't sleep. I'm so angry. I cry every day. Her dad, Jamie, was court appointed as a minister back in 2008. Whitney was placed in 2 involuntary psychiatric holds following a public breakdown. Now she wants him out, telling the judge that he wanted to control his own daughter 100,000% if he loved it. She said he forced her to tour against her will. When she complained, she was put on lithium. So drunk. I told them I was scared. Foster said her conservator will never get married or have more children, even preventing her from removing an IUD. I think they don't and alone.
I think this new judge, however, is taking steps to do exactly that.
Jamie Spears did not speak at the hearing, but his attorney told the judges he's sorry to see his daughter suffering and in so much pain. Mr. Spears loves his daughter and misses her very much. Last year, Britney petitioned the court to have her father removed, which a different judge denied. In the last 13 years, the superstar has released several albums, starred in a TV show, and performed in a Las Vegas residency. It now tells the court, if I can work for myself and pay other people, it makes no sense. I just want my life back. Fans and other celebrities agree. Including her former boyfriend, Justin Timberlake, who tweeted, "We should always support Britney at this time. No one should ever be held against their will or ever have to ask permission to access everything they worked so hard for." I had this explained to me when they was former U.S. attorney told fans she's a professor at the University of Alabama Law School and at MSA's of choice. Explain to me the type of person, what kind of condition would someone normally be in with this kind of conservatorship? I would guess it's someone suffering from dementia, someone in a vegetative state, not a 39-year-old woman who's making shows, records, tens of millions of dollars. That's a really good guess, and you're exactly right. People are coming to the end of their life. Or even with permanent long-term possibilities. So, Britney Spears was the leadership of the chosen collaboration. And the one but now, 10 years down the road, based on the whole and for the California water, this is well typically they when they are now, oh my God, but just yesterday, she was no longer required. And then it's and she did such a great breakdown. She was one of the most public people on the planet Earth who lived in the public eye since she was a child. This phrase is really troubling. You can think there's so many people who can rough patch in their lives, but they don't suddenly give up control, not just the money that they're earning. But it's a suspicion that she's reporting that she's not committed to having So, let's say what this judge will do, but this case deserves a good hard look. Unless there's information that wasn't presented yesterday and hasn't filtered out to the public over the years, it's tough to make a case for this conservatorship should continue. Well, thank you so much for the cover this story. Now we have to turn to Rebecca's hour. Final preparations are underway for Sunday Friday in New York City. It was supposed to be a celebration of love, diversity, and inclusion for all community members who are still fighting the law. But this morning, the controversy is growing over this year's ban against uniformed police officers from participating in Sundays festivities. Three organizers say they're implementing the ban in 2025 because they want to create safer spaces for marginalized communities. Quote, presenting safety with law enforcement may be meant to provide, but instead be threatening and at times dangerous to those who are in our community or those often targeted for because of force and race upbringing. Let me now to discuss. Detective Brian Down. Brian is the president of GOLD, New York's Gay Officers Action League. This group has been banned from marching. I'm so glad you're here with me. This is crazy. When they said this in March, but you cannot wear your uniform, this is not like the organizers telling you to stay in the closet. You can be here, but just don't show any of you live dark.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you so much for having us today to be here with you to talk about this. So the decision we feel is hurtful. It's asking us to shed a layer that we voluntarily chose to put on to come into the system to affect change, to be the change. Every movement we've ever had in this country has always had people working on the inside, and that's what we do at the Gay Officer Action League. So it's real sad and disappointing for our folks.
Is this potentially dangerous for those who are participating? Could officers who are assigned to this parade not want to show up on Sunday? If you don't want me there, I might not want to protect you, especially given what a charged environment we're in right now. Is it dangerous?
Well, to speak to that, security arrangements are being run in NYPD, and I know of no one that is going to refuse an assignment to keep any community safe. I think that we do that in a lot of different spaces, and I'm sure that presence will continue in this space. I mean, if we look at the events of the weekend in Wilton Manors, although that has been classified at this time as an accident, let's say that it was not. Let's say that we have seen events where the vehicle ran in. I've been on the scene of them myself here, just a few feet from where I'm talking to you right now, on the West Side Highway in Alameda a few years ago. We see active shooter situations. So I think that the police will definitely be at pride, and they'll definitely be protecting it the way that we always do.
You have not reached out to the organizers. Why not?
For a number of different reasons. First of all, just to be clear, my membership has voted unanimously to continue dialogue with these organizers. That when that dialogue starts, remains to be seen. But the fact is that we were told that we weren't welcome. And that was really the end of that conversation. So after we were told that we weren't welcome, that into discussions in the media about whether this guy could be like wearing a polo officers that, we're not going to engage through the media. We have a really working relationship with Heritage and Pride. I'm very proud and I look at all the grants on right now and support their events the past several years as since their existence. And, especially really well, some of the out of the box things we did as far as, training programs for police officers that would be notorious. So I call them yes, notorious significance of them, making sure it's not unnecessary incidents or policing. So I'm proud of the relationships we have, and the way that we feel the role is we're not going to engage them through the press. You know how to get in touch with us, and we expect to hear from you. If you want to come to a membership meeting and talk to our folks there in that space, you're more than welcome to. As a matter to hear from you, and I think they're going to give you some feedback as both police officers and members of the communities that you're saying don't want them there. I think they'd like to give you some feedback as well, because they are bringing their intersectional experiences into the criminal justice system and affecting change from within. So I'd love for that to happen.
And I do hope we can continue that dialogue, and celebration, all through our visual action, and we organize this paper, and Ryan, for joining us, and thank you for being here, Stacey. That wraps up this hour, and I'm sorry, Will Project, so for 3 weeks. And this is Annie.
You turn the cold washing tide, literally it's up to the environment, and so you probably.
I will take that money. Burritos. Get a fresh mint on Subway instead. Fresh veggies on fresh and bread. Just look in the app. Here's the burgers. Subway, eat fresh.
So then I said to him, customers can't trust the usual, so you gotta pay for what you need.
Don't you talk about something other than work? It's the weekend.
Only there, don't you?
Stand up to love, just lay your boots right up like us and take it off. Ringo. A once-daily pill, gives you back for your Ringo helps tame pain, stiffness, swelling. For some, Ringo can significantly reduce autoimmune fatigue. That's Ringo. When already overactive immune system attacks your joints, Ringo regulates to help stop the attack. Take it on, alright. Talk to your oncologist about Ringo, making your mission. Young 40,000, operating. I love it. The technology is, I just wear a little sensor and that's it.
The next concept like glucose read is privacy for every 5 minutes, and you can also get it on the smartphone.
It's fully private, no one knows. Now it's easier to be able to see what your numbers are any time of the day. You don't have to do your fingers at all. It's amazing.
It really helps you take control of life.
We are coming on the air in the middle of race against time in South Florida. Still a search and rescue operation. They are still looking for survivors after part of that condo collapse around 2 this morning in Surfside, just north of Miami Beach. We're seeing what's left of part of that building now. At this moment, we know 1 person has died. 2 right now are in the hospital. But there are no numbers yet on how many people are still missing after this horrifying scene. Survivors starting to share their stories after a scary one.
Unfortunately, we did hear screams, and I heard the one thing about it. We did hear screams, but I couldn't tell where they were coming from the rubble, the apartments, people on the balconies, waving flashlights, yelling to the firefighters.
Over the course of the next 60 minutes, we are talking live with another person who made it out of that building, and with the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Lauren Season, the first responders here. But I want to start as we go on the air with live in Washington. And this is Sam Rock, who's on the scene in Surfside. Sam, we just got an update from emergency officials. We know some of the numbers of people rescued, 35 of them, right? We know the numbers of people in the hospital too. What we don't know right now are how many people are still missing. As this is a direction folks who have family in that building to call this hotline on this level.
That's exactly right.
know, it was 55 units that collapsed. And now it's Florida, so some people are down here after second homes for getaways for vacations. But the reality is, when we have these trips out there around our shopping center is not locally occupied. There are plenty of people in there, so what percentage of the 55 units that can one in 4 bedrooms were fully occupied? We don't know. However, my shoulder out will see a bunch of people huddling around this moment. I can tell you this is night and day, literally and figuratively, from what I saw this morning. When fire trucks were here assembled, with loud extended to the balconies, pulling people out of the building. You mentioned there were 35 folks who were rescued and 2 others were taken from below and survived. But you know, one thing from the out, 10 people who were treated unsafe, and then the question right now, we all want answers, is how many people are missing, and could this battle rise exponentially? The officials here, right now, cannot provide clarity on that. And it comes with absolutely heavily focused on hearing from folks, as you just played, saying that if you're screaming in the building, one woman says that she actually could not get up, she's on the inside, and stayed up on her shoulder, so she was in the hallways, she could not get out. Had to be rescued from her balcony with her husband and 2 elderly folks that also live in that building. She shouldered them out, and they were all able to be rescued. She said she has 3 kids and a grandson who's 12 months old. She would have been not on this side, but on the seaside of things. Other than that, she would not be standing there talking to me today. I have countless other stories just like that happening. It's crazy to believe that there are a lot of people that are still missing right now. Marilyn Campbell, I know you're about to talk to her in 1 second. She said, there's chaplains on scene, there's reunification services, hopefully it's one emphasis on the latter, reunification. Less on the chaplain, who's going to have other people. These are both very distinct legal possibilities right now.
It is a gut punch to look at the wreckage of what's left behind you, Stan, and think about the operation that still needs to unfold. The other big question, you talked about the immediate question, which is how many people are they looking for? The other one is, how in the world did this happen in the first place? And I know that that's something the investigators are trying to figure out too.
Absolutely, and it's built in 1981. There's a Georgia Mine Cruiser. It's a building that is over 40 years. They have to inspect it for structural deficiencies. I'm told from a resident who lived not 4 years, we're doing some work on the roof. She believes it was tied to that review of the building, but it's not related to the glass. And also, there's a lot of architecture out here that was built in the 80s. This is Miami. How representative is this and potentially many other issues? And we spoke to a certain out there and said, look, this is enough. This was like a bomb went off. We do not know why it's a catastrophic failing, and we must figure it out. Right now, there are so many questions.
Sam Bob, I appreciate you being live there on scene, a very active scene this morning in Surfside, Florida. Physical tank just in the last 60 minutes or so. This is going to be a very long search and rescue process. Do not think that this will wrap up sometime in the next couple of hours. It's going to be pretty longer than that. Here we are, the unimaginable, incredible. Our prayers are with the residents, with the families, with the community.
We're very appreciative of what they offer and the assistance, anything we need. This is not going to be something that's going to be brief. It's going to be something that's going to be for the long term and possibly, at least a week. And for these people behind me, it's very important that you recognize them because there's a lot of support here. This is helping make this happen. And we can resolve this as quickly as possible.
I want to bring in now the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniela Lunicala. Mayor Lunicala, thank you so much for being on with us. Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yes, I can. I know we just had that briefing that ended roughly 30 minutes ago, and it was officials from one person to go several of us are in the last 30 minutes or so. Have you gotten, I have to ask, any update, any word of the condition, for example, on those taken to the hospital? No, we do not have an update on that, but we know that 35 people were rescued, and we have only 2 that went to for medical help. And of course, they continue the search and rescue from the rubble as well as evacuating everybody from the base. This is your county. This is a town that you know. This is a community that you know. How are you doing this morning? And talk me through what has gone through your minds to sit up over the last several hours.
So heartbreaking.
As you say, this is my county, my community. Surfside is a family-oriented community, very close-knit, small. The mayor's been on site since the wee hours, and his manager, our fire rescue team, which is the best, and has so much experience. Unfortunately, this kind of work has been working throughout the night, and will obviously continue. We also have our Florida Department of Emergency Management and the task force here on site, dogs. We have really the best of best, and we're doing everything they possibly can to continue to identify anybody that they can rescue. Is there any expectation at this point, Mayor, that you will find survivors remaining in the rubble? Yes, we still have hope that there will be survivors. Yes, and we're actively pursuing that. Is there anything that's giving you an indication that you might find survivors? For example, the dogs that are barking, et cetera. Are you getting any signals that perhaps there are people alive? I've been told that they are actively searching. So that's all communications. Of course, we've also identified any missing people, and we have hotline 305-614-1819, and the website www.emergency. And we want to encourage everybody who is looking for missing loved ones to report so that we can coordinate and switch efforts and the situation. Can you talk about the assessment as to whether part of the building is still up? We spoke this morning during the fantasy of the people who were in that part of the building is not collapsed by out. Is it confirmed that that part of the building is no longer in danger of collapsing? Is that okay? I'm understanding that there is some concern that other parts of the building might be vulnerable, and the area has been cleared to make sure. And fortunately, it has been but there are first responders, right, who are on the scene, who are looking for people. We can see images of them there, and Martin has not crashed. Are they? Do you believe that they're in danger as well? Our first responders are obviously heroes and heroines, and we know that you put themselves in a kind of danger, that you have engineers on site helping to establish where it is safe for them to go. But obviously, we're praying for them, and all of our thoughts are with them, because taking this very exciting. I know it's so early to be thinking about what caused this, or any understanding of what caused this. It's a very small reporter on the scene. But can you shed any light on that there? There's been speculation, I've heard probably, was it a sinkhole? Did something fail? What do you think you know, at least at this point, albeit very preliminary? I know that the efforts are focused on engineering, that we're looking at what might be concerns with the construction or condition of the building. We do not have any information at this time to really say. Of course, we're foul play, we seem not to be concerned about that evidence. Some of the survivors have described seeing a lot of water in the garage area underneath the building, which could obviously be from the collapse itself. Could that have been something that happened prior? Is there any indication that the water was a factor here in the fall? So this building is right on the beach. Obviously, there's a wave option nearby. And we do not know exactly what they have contributed to that, but for sure, there's a lot of water. Do you have the resources that you need there in Miami-Dade County? What else do your crews need? And I wonder, as I sit here in Washington, if there has been any federal outreach to you. I don't know if the president would have called or there's any outreach to you or representatives. Yes, I've heard from the White House offering any assistance. I've heard from our congressional delegation offering any assistance. Our lieutenant governor is on the scene. Our chief financial officer is arriving. Our lieutenant governor is arriving. They're all here together. And my understanding is that we have a resource team and just how much world recognized rescue team
with a lot of experience, given that we had many governments across, other from Israel Council, the Argentinian Council, other foreign dignitaries reaching out to see if they can get assistance. We can show a lot of our screen before we go, and remember for the family reunification hotline, for you who don't know where the learners are, what is your message to those families who are in agonizing pain, I am sure right now, waiting to hear word of their loved ones? Yes. Please call us, please call us. We want to hear from you, we want to know who you are trying to contact. We have information, we need to hear from you. Also, we have a family reunification center set up right here in Surfside. There's personnel on hand to assist with the social needs, food and emergency assistance of all kinds, as well as we have job runs here. This is a large Jewish community. We have a Jewish rescue, we have Jewish tournament, we have police officers that speak English, and of course, we don't know exactly who all of these are, so we're here available to assist everyone. Mayor Janelle, thank you so much for the time and for the story. It was a terrific morning for you. We'll be getting updates for you. Thank you. We are staying on top of the story. A little bit later on ourselves, we're going to be talking with somebody else who came out of that building a lot, and was able to see if this horrific scene continues to unfold down here in South Florida. And there's other groups still like to the show. We're live at the White House, and I have leaders were expressing some optimism on getting a bipartisan infrastructure bill done. We just want progress on that front. The sources on NBC that we're running by President Biden the next hour at the White House. Also, some signs of progress on police reform that are straight ahead. What negotiators are telling us is they come out of the latest round of talks.
At the UPS store, can you believe all the needs we fit under one roof? We're here to help your small business any way we can. Everything for small business, all in one place.
The UPS store.
This is great.
He also, he was thinking, when he started was how he heard about farmer's dogs and it was a tea transformation. And how he was one way, and he just had amazing, it's another way for that. Remember, you should have the best nutritious and delicious food possible. Investing in good dog's health and convenience. Get started at lawfuldogs.com.
It's the easiest because it's the cheapest. I've never stopped at this before.
We gave you single piercings for stories to people retired anytime.
What's the difference?
Currently studying plant-based ingredients actually found in the review promise using piercings restore girls' skin. Let's get started. Hello, Ernie back. I really tried sleeping, but I'm done struggling. Now I sleep with Inspire. Inspire? Inspire is a sleep app. It works inside my body, just click this button.
What?
Oh my gosh. Justice.
Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. Learn more at inspiresleep.com. Hello. We tested on antibacterial. It cuts through tough grease. 50% less scrubbing, so our dishes get cleaner faster. Even better, Dawn antibacterial removes 99% of bacteria from your hands. We're cleaning now more than ever. And that's why we trust Dawn. Dawn antibacterial. An easy way to clean your dishes. A smart way to wash your hands. Enjoy the scents of orange and apple blossom.
You have this, and try that. You try this, and you're ready for that. You're ready. Take a leap. You've been safe, and will continue to be. You need love, and the right place. We have one for you at our friendly programs. Because we care. We'll see you soon.
Another thing is going on this morning. Progress on the Democrats' agenda potentially before they head out for July recess goes infrastructure. NBC News learning next hour at the White House, less than 60 minutes. 60 minutes. President Biden said he needs bipartisan group senators looking for a seal of approval on a very tentative framework. Police support negotiators until last day had a basic framework related to the actual language which was not complicated. And then a little later this hour, about 30 minutes, we expect to hear from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi who announced whether she'll set up a special House committee to investigate what happened on January 6th. I want to bring in our NBC News team. We have phone calls on the floor on Capitol Hill. We also got our Mike Medley standing by at the White House. We have a big meeting next hour. They're where Mike is at the White House. Talk to us about what you're doing on this thing we coming together, this framework on infrastructure. Hey, Ali, that's right. Big meeting, but also right behind these big buses to take the lawmakers to the White House in the next hour or so to meet with President Biden. And that comes after days of negotiations with White House officials on what this framework on infrastructure entails. Now, we don't have the details yet. They've been very tight-lipped. It is, traditional infrastructure, roads and bridges and broadband. But the biggest sticking point is how to pay for it. After a late night meeting last night, it seems like negotiators felt very good about what they came up with on ways to pay for it. We are waiting to hear what exactly those are. But Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer had a separate meeting with White House officials, and they emerged from that meeting understanding the dynamics within their caucuses, and it's going to be very difficult to get all 50 Democrats and all of the House Democrats on board for any bipartisan bill unless they have an agreement on a major reconciliation human infrastructure bill. Let's listen to what Senator Schumer said last night after that meeting. And that is the thing that he's trying to make a commitment to his progressive members and saying, look, we're not going to go on this bipartisan bill and leave everything else aside, like the child care, the elder care, all of the school infrastructure stuff. So that is his commitment to them. I did speak with one member of the bipartisan group recently and just this morning, and they said that they still feel very good about where things are, Holly. Leanne, thank you. We're going to Mike at the White House here, because Mike, Leanne touched on this, right? President Biden's got a left flank, and he's got to get on board with this too. Despite Georgia activity put on Republican support, for example, Senator Manchin, et cetera. What is the expectation when you're hearing from your many sources in federal on this?
Well, I think what's so interesting about what we're going to see unfold in the next hour is we had some of the president's top advisors camped out really on Capitol Hill, working with his bipartisan group, trying to come up with what is now being called a framework. I'm not necessarily sure we have all the details in now. And so it's really set President Biden up today to be closer to sit down with everybody and make sure they have everything in place on this track. But how we began the week, you and I talking about the White House, they have multiple pathways to infrastructure deal. So much of the way we've been discussing this has been an either-or situation, either the bipartisan deal or the reconciliation Democrat going along. The White House is really going to have to grapple with now is the fact that a lot of Democrats want both, and part of what Senator Schumer spoke to there is is the likelihood that they are going to try to do both. This really sets up the president, a former man in the Senate, somebody who has really wanted to get Congress back to functioning the way it used to. That's really one of the most complicated legislative maneuvers ahead of him that we've seen really in Washington in some time. And so today, the president, when he's director talks with Republicans and Democrats alike, is laying the groundwork for his own involvement. It's going to require him and the entire White House team constantly reassuring both sides, especially progressives who have become increasingly vocal to the criticism and concern about how the White House is pursuing here, that they can get both of these things done at the same time. It's no easy trick.
But thank you, and then second, you also have this other piece of the fight, Jay, which is cookies for them, right? And you've got this deadline today, and negotiators said, we're reaching some kind of deal. Talk about where things stand on that.
It's a one of rare issues requiring 60 votes of the Senate, but I will say my party are still very much alive. The negotiators met a couple times this week. They sounded positive about what came out of the meeting. Let's get connected from about 2 years that there was some stuff that Congress we can address. Now, one of the sticking points in these talks has been an issue of Section 242 criminal liability for police officers, and whether they will expect the use of force should be covered subject to them to liability. What the negotiators hope to do is come up with a framework that they agree on this week, and it's kind of next couple weeks, right, in legislative language. We saw one example 2 weeks ago, and they thought they had a deal, then they got to writing language and realized not so much, they didn't really have a deal. Bottom line now is whether it is police reform or infrastructure, right now you go there, 2 people who really matter in there, 60 votes in the Senate, are the other guy, and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, and Senator McConnell block, but those two are critical to getting, whether it's getting fire, getting Tenor, getting 21, how many officials to see those needed for the next, couple of weeks. We'll talk a lot about where the president's going to stand.
Sorry, and like, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. We actually have breaking news from South Florida, because as we have been on the air just in the last couple of minutes, we are now getting a hearing to show the collapse, so that's Florida's Florida. This is coming into us just in the last couple of minutes. We're still application.
ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates.
Every case that improving talent troubles. You know that there's hope for better work. It's the revolution.
We want to be loved and seen.
This will be fully on this university.
ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The people in the haystack.
With technology is used. Values will stay the same. That's why we stop at nothing. We deliver our technology as a service.
It's the easiest because it's the cheesiest. You're gonna love this. Plenty of this. It's like something like this. Now we have $20 plus to get it on everyone's state. For Emma,
Only pay what you need.
on that this is important. It's not highly.
We've all seen the flashy advertisements from out-of-state law firms. Selected victims that would turn to come back after an accident. Injured Missourians should choose a local personal injury lawyer. Common injury law. Tested, trusted, tenacious. We've all seen the flashy advertisements from out-of-state law firms. Selected victims that would turn to come back after an accident. Injured Missourians should choose a local personal injury lawyer. Common injury law. Tested, trusted, tenacious.
It's your idea. It's your dream. It's your turbocharged adventure ready from Chicago to the sea. Hyundai Santa Fe. It's your dream. Get $1,000 in total savings on Santa Fe. Now I'm never getting it. Visit Hyundai.com today.
The partial collapse of that condo building, it was like one person dead, 2 others in the hospital, and new this hour, our first building to collapse itself, surveillance video captured nearby. Yeah, thank you. This is extremely disturbing, especially in how the lights were on. Some of those condos inside the building that collapsed. We're only going to show you once here. I'm going to do that here.
And here is the question. Joe was engaged to a young lady. She went by just one name. Tell us that name, and we'll give you these two. Sure, for a few minutes, maybe just a little bit. And she was a former Miss Denmark, first runner of Miss World. She was Halle Berry. Then you're Halle Berry came in 8th year, and this one was so
It is horrifying to see, right? The building of the collapse, followed by 1 second. I mean, that literally does rescuers right now, that's why we equipment, they're trying to get us clear. You can see some picture of what it looks like just in the last moment. Bringing out somebody who ran in to help people when this collapse happened. Nicholas Balboa is joining us. Nicholas, here we are. Actually, we're here with us, Nicholas. Thank you very much for being with us. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
We just, our viewers just saw what happened right around 2 o'clock this morning, but part of this building came down. Can you walk me through where you were at the time, what you saw, what you did?
Sure. So at the time, it was about 11, about 1:30 in the morning. So I was walking my dog. Though I was about a block away, the ground shaking, I heard, the sound of thunder. So it didn't really register that it could possibly be something like this until about 30 seconds later. Basically another, sound of thunder and feeling the ground shake beneath me. Then I realized that something wasn't right. So I brought my dog back upstairs, and then I ran back downstairs, went to Collins, and saw the plume of dust and smoke just kind of barreling down the corridor on Collins. So as I was approaching the scene, to the I guess the west of the building, on the front side of it, fire crews were coming in, emergency vehicles, so they were lining the street and they were pushing people back. So I guess, I wanted to get a better vantage point, so I decided to walk around, the apartment complex to the north of the building, walk around it to the beach side, so that way I can be on the back side of the building and get a better angle and see what exactly what transpired. At that point, when I got to the building, there were no police, there was no fire crews back there. It was just myself, a few other individuals.
So we got a little bit closer to the building to see, a little bit more. And at that point, because there was nobody back there, it was pretty quiet, like almost kind of eerie quiet, given the situation. So we could hear somebody yelling. And so I got a little bit closer, and I could hear that it was a young boy. He was sticking his arm up to the wall, trying to see if he could, be seen. So he was like, "Can you see me? Can you see me?" So I was able to spot him. I started to kind of climb up to the debris to see if I could, help him get out. There was no police and fire back there. Once I saw that he was pinned, and there was no way that I would be able to help him, especially I had another individual that was trying to do the same with me. I used my phone to the flashlight on my phone to try and flag, police officer and fire groups to get up over there. So that's when, a police officer came over. He climbed up and was able to see him. So, just the whole time, the little boy, he was just screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." So we wanted to make sure that I was safe there. And then he did it.
I wonder, Nicholas, and it's so difficult to listen to when you think about something like this. What would you say to this little boy who was, I think, just 10 or 12 years old, right?
He was 10 years old. I just told him, we're here, we're not going to leave you. The police officer that came, he wanted us to move back. I pretty much told him, I'm not going to leave him. You'll have to arrest me first. So, just don't want him to be alone. He said his mother was in there with him. I couldn't hear her, I couldn't see her. So, I hope and pray that she's okay. But I just wanted to make sure that he knew that he wasn't alone and that he wasn't going to be forgotten about.
After that, I don't know how long you stayed on scene. We believe the boy was taken out. I don't know if this is the same child, because I'm sure you hear about that. How long did you stay, and how are you doing now? Because you witnessed something like that, I'm sure. It's shocking.
It was. Myself, and the other individual, we were there for about, I would say about 15 minutes with him. About 15 minutes. Fire came over. I guess they were waiting for a special team that would come in and move the debris. So they moved, they got there, they started their work. They obviously asked us to get out of the way. So we moved down, and then the police officers basically started to make a larger, perimeter. So they backed us up pretty far. So I couldn't quite stay there, but I saw them working. It looked like it probably took somewhere between half an hour to almost an hour to get out of there. She was in pretty good.
Nicholas is an incredible effort that you went through the past to make sure that this little boy was okay. There's a lot of students that we right now, since Nicholas thank you very much for being there this time. We want to get a better sense of what steps that this crew that Nicholas and others are talking about are taking right now, the challenges in front of them. So I'm bringing somebody who has a very specific perspective on this. Retired Miami-Dade Fire Chief, Chief Downey, good morning, thanks for being on. I know that in your career you haven't seen anything exactly like this, right? But can you give us a sense, based on your expertise, what these first responders are doing now at this point? We're 8+ hours into when the collapse actually happened. We are told by officials it is still search and rescue. The mayor told us just a couple minutes ago on the show that she is hopeful, right? Hopeful that maybe they'll find more people alive in this debris. What's going on for this?
Absolutely. There's a very specific process that takes place with building collapse, search and rescue. First, the units on scene will remove those that were on the surface, likely trapped, and we get those folks out. Then you get into the more methodical void search and rescue, and that's what's happening right now. And it's a very specific step-by-step process. When it's a large area of collapse, they're literally looking for needles in the haystack, and so they'll be running search and rescue dogs over the roll pile. And if there's any areas of interest, canines, bringing other search materials in such as prison devices, cameras, gauges, void spaces. They're absolutely still conducting rescue operations. This type of collapse doesn't lend itself to large void spaces, but there's still a possibility of void spaces and survivors in those void spaces. So it's going to be a process.
When you say void spaces, you mean an area where somebody could be, oh, I'm sorry, Chief, but you're saying just to put that in play, because that's a spot that somebody could be in, not, potentially with some open space around, right?
Exactly. And so it's the absolute last thing they're gonna do is start trying to remove the legs. Some people say, why are you pulling that debris out? But that debris causes everything else to become unstable as well. And they're still working in an environment where there's part of the building still standing.
And as a mayor, there was this morning some concern about the stability of that piece of the structure. Chief, just before we brought you in here, I'm not gonna play again, we're not gonna show it again, but we showed some surveillance video of what happened. And I wonder if you read anything into that meeting. It looked as though the middle portion of the building collapsed, and then one of the wings, if you go back to that shot where you're showing, it looked like a computer animation rendering rather around the actual building itself. It looks like it's an L-shaped building. Is there anything that investigators, Chief, might read into the way that this building came down as to what caused the collapse itself? Which is one of your key questions still outstanding.
Sure, I mean, that's going to be a great mystery for all of us. I mean, all the efforts now are focused on life safety and rescue, and then recovery. There'll be a time to figure out how this building came down. In my 40 years, I've never seen a collapse like this. That didn't involve some sort of, earthquake or something else. And so this is really a unique type of collapse and just a tragic event.
Can you talk through what this is like for the actual, men who are, because they are putting themselves, they're clearly putting themselves in harm's way to try to conduct this search and rescue operation. What is that like, as far as the home space that they go into this?
Sure, well, I mean, fortunately, or unfortunately, that Miami Fire Rescue sponsored one of the 28 national urban search and rescue teams. So the personnel that are there on the scene are highly trained, highly experienced in this type of rescue operations. And really,
You're saying they're the best of us. They're the ones who other people call, right?
there's no other things that are out there. Because of my background. But the bottom line is they know what they're doing. They are going to work this incident with safety in mind. There's structural engineers that are out there. And their job is to make sure that if this critical are safe within the building, or they're going to do something to stabilize the building and make it safe. For this interesting. That's the biggest concern now. Like the secondary collapse. If you have a building that is more supported, you have a whole side out those.
Right.
You can't say collapse.
I wish I did not have to ask this question.
Janet,
I hope that
Janet said it.
at what point, right, does the rescue operation that moves forward?
They have some. Do you have a place to live? They can't take away.
I mean, that's a small rescue happening. Haven't had to make that call many times.
When you do,
That's our transition. It will come a point. The decision is typically made
when you do the rescue,
they start to make efforts to have no sound, no unknown anything. There's no evidence that there's survivors in there. That coupled with the stability of the remaining structure, the stability of the area, and we certainly don't want anybody else or killed as a result of this incident. So yes, it's not a decision that you can say 12 hours after the incident and hours after the incident. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a lot.
Exactly.
They should.
we're watching to see if people get potentially more updates from officials there, but meantime, I'm sure we just need more regular state Republicans debugging claims of voter fraud in that state. So why are they still recommending changes to the state's voting laws? The Secretary of State joins me in Iowa, Michigan next. Plus, my fellow judge is asking Republicans downplay the insurrection at Capitol. Planet, are they on it?
We try this TFO, Walmart Development Chief Models. Models can create new jobs, jobs for people like Teddy and Lacey and me. I love my family. And we're here now and what's going on. Life is better for us because of the job. A job created by this team at Walmart.
Intricate sand, instant energy fire, chemical engineering, advanced green water filtration system, and power around technology for utility 90% of the virus that causes COVID-19
You mentioned this Rob. He's on the scene and he's a plant renewable hotspot. You cut to downtown. The Central Lisa has to send some vines, like ASAP.
So basically, I figured the right plan for each of them.
It actually worked.
But AT&T Business is the best plan for each employee and all the plan for the future savings.
It's the easiest, because it's the cheesiest.
One thing about it, Capitol right now is that building is where House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the news conference, speaker of performers, who was the question today. Probably the biggest question for her. Is she going to announce next steps for the investigation into the death of January 6th attack? This is something that her meetings was figures prior to today, and there's any news on that front as we get it. And on the legal front, some news in today as well, a federal judge who was appointed by Ronald Reagan is wondering about what planet some Republicans are living on for downplaying that attack. Those recently a global terrorism. The judge called that nonsense. I was bringing in TV investigative reporter Scott McFarland from our billionaire TV. And Scott, that came under this very first sentence. Indiana Governor 5, we got 36 months probation. You and I talked about this actually off the show 24 hours ago. You said that was the max that federal prosecutors were looking for.
She got an hours of community service in a small time. DOJ, Justice Department, and we wanted 3 years of probation. She was a little bit more of a role like all of us. This was on that day. And she was talking about this. She apologized to the American people. He said, she forgot to ask for a copy. It was amazing.
The feds are also releasing a new video of this stuff. What can you tell us about that?
An hour new video, video of January 6th, a lot of people, persistent in watching what we saw in the approach to that day. All the response to the but also, what's up with some salt, really about 4 years so, months ago, that's really a driving bomb. This case, he could be back and forth today with my dad, he's in jail, and in trial. There's a lot of things he was selling police or being held in jail. And they're making out to see these videos because all these things longer than easy months.
Scott McFarland from recently watching. Scott, thank you very much. This morning, getting surrounded the expression we're calling it in Michigan. Are going against their off-screen authority, holding a reporting sessions that it was no widespread fraud in 2021. The GOP-led state senate there releasing a long-awaited report, and it is a comprehensive debunking of many lies put out by supporters of President Trump and by Trump himself. Like, for example, the Georgians were asking that people who live there or the ballots received political junk tables, not etc. All of it debunked. The report came to a final conclusion after a stated 55 pages that citizens should be confident the results represent the true results of the ballots cast by the people of Michigan. I want to bring it down. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Secretary Benson, good morning, and thank you for being back on the show.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Sure, you say you call this a vindication of the truth, but it isn't true. You know that some Republicans in the state and, by the way, federal level here in Washington have refused to speak. Are you glad? What is your reaction to see Republicans in your state senate now go against their party's de facto leader, Donald Trump, in his own country?
I'm grateful for the integrity of the state senator and his room who really led this investigation and was thorough and thoughtful and looked at the facts and talked to people from both sides and really just affirmed what countless courts and numerous clerks and the majority of Michigan citizens know to be true, that our election was secure and the results were an accurate reflection of the will of the people. What remains to be seen is whether the 39 bills we're promoting in the state legislature that are furthering allowing misinformation and trying to react to it will now be similarly debunked and removed from the table because they're very crucial for our democracy.
I was going to ask you about those 39 bills introduced by Republicans in the state senate. They did, change Michigan's voting laws to basically help restrict the vote, especially absentee voting. How do you square this?
Words are great, and the truth is the truth, and the facts are the facts, and as I said, it's now almost 8 months after the November 2020 election, so it's great that more and more people are recognizing the truth. But we need more and more people to stand up against the efforts to undo the policies that led to the election being so secure and safe and such a high turnout election. Instead, we still are fighting this legislation in Michigan and across the country. And we're fighting not just legislation to undo the policies that enable such high levels of secure voter turnout, but also legislation that addresses the authority as the chief election officer to educate citizens about their voting rights. So we will continue to address efforts that are trying to stand for democracy. This report certainly is a confirmation of the truth we've known for a long time, and the truth will remain the truth. Let's hope that the legislation shifts the focus from undoing the laws that helped us engage so many citizens and focusing on real accountability for those who have been lying and deceiving citizens for the past several months. We need to have that accountability if this big lie is ultimately going to dissipate so that we can move forward and protect the human rights.
When we talk about accountability, the Attorney General's office is now reviewing this report to decide whether the criminal investigation is appropriate into unspecified individuals and cases and false claims about the election. Based on what you know, do you believe such an investigation would be appropriate?
Yes, I think we need accountability for those who have intentionally deceived citizens about their right to vote, about the truth of this election. And that accountability can come in many forms. And I think we need to have that accountability either without or through the legal system or both. If we're really going to be able to respond to this moment, otherwise, there's no accountability, then there's nothing stopping this from happening again. And that's not
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, thank you so much for being that. We also got things here about this hour on any developments from the city that we're looking at, or an apartment building has to partially collapse. We're also thinking that this conference is also the next POC, since we get any minute or any day, get some headlines on the potential for some kind of investigation into what happened on January 6th. We've got a lot coming up afterward.
I'm hearing I'm settling my migraines with the house, where there's pain and nausea, but it's starting to move back and right up and it makes my symptoms fast.
That's what makes law makes the community. Vibrant law, relax, very easy to withstand the harshest weather. Or check out the big old expert Paramount Standards that will protect your next side porches from sun moisture damage. Right now, save 11% of all Dutch Boy and Mixer rates exchange at the save money in the car.
Lincoln College has so much to offer. We have Texas sports, vaccine, we have NSLS, we have all these organizations that help you find where you're supposed to be. For every student inside of the country. At Lincoln College, you are senior and you are learning of law. So I've been here and I know exactly how to do it. So when you get to Lincoln College, instead of going to the and
So I'm going to answer some of these questions and see
if I can see it's the easiest, because it's the cheesiest. I know it's just a layer of wax.
With the new city government cash card, it used to be.
It's when we were followed back and forth, because we were politics on the hill and military leaders, it was something that's been on cultural flashback.
Our future military leaders are being taught that the fundamental, the Constitution and the fundamental civilian institutions of this country are indicatively racist, misogynist, and colonialist.
We do not teach critical race theory. We don't embrace critical race theory. And I think that's still part of this conversation.
For the defense secretary pushing back for the race theory. So institutional racism is embedded in the policies and
I personally find it offensive that we are accusing people or something else because you're studying somewhere. So, what is it that causes you to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States?
Like on space towns across the country, as you know, if you watch this show, the Roswell show 165, right? It's not local and national news and aims to disrupt Russian race. Stay on top of the story. I'll talk more about it. We also have an exclusive interview you will only see here on NBC. So they have a smartphone before in this kind of public setting on camera, and that is the first ever second board President Kamala Harris. After Wednesday's announcement, she'll go to the southern border for her first business meeting tomorrow, defending the promise.
Already did.
So I'm not saying
this week is because he's going next. He's going to carve like that.
Experiencing things in the days before former President Trump sets to travel there as well. For a lot of Texas here is serving us now with more than this exclusive one-on-one. And here today. Or also interesting. Jordan Carr, Sonny Austin, Megan McKay, and Diana Navarro. Now, let's get things started. Good morning and welcome to the view. It's our next meeting. It's our problem. It's from 12:30 down in this point. It's under control. Anna is here with us. And so let's see. One of the biggest hot topics this morning is and she claims that she this is really something. She couldn't even remove her IPT without permission. She's still on this whole thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic, yesterday after the show, I actually moderated a panel on human rights violations with the two people that work in this space who are connected to the country because of the human rights violations we experienced. And I was absolutely sick to my stomach listening to the audio. I felt physically ill. I had to take a pause in bed after I was sick and went through made for her life by any arbitrary definition. This is a definition of human trafficking. She was being forced to work against her. She was being forced to be put on medication as a student at the which is long-term damage to her brain because she didn't need it. She was not allowed to have agency over her body or her reproductive rights, and she was effectively being used as a slave and working as a slave for her family and its consumer. My concern right this moment is these are people who do this woman for 13 years. 13 years. What can they do right now retaliating? I actually have reached the level that the FBI needs to be involved and expedite her from her home away from these people right there around it because we're going to hold it in real time. I think it's level of how to say that. Although that person gets what we saw in the documentary,
one day. You can grow it, you know, need some fat, but doesn't have to be saturated. Wheat bread, wheat bread. Wheat bread. Wheat bread.
Documentary when I first started out this story, it really highlighted the problem of stigmatizing mental health. In the documentary, one of the attorneys said he's never seen anyone get out of one of these conservatorships, so I haven't heard the numbers, but it seems very rare that people are able to free themselves from these situations. It holds people prisoner from doing basic things, aggravated examples, and some of the other things like small purchases, brushes your boyfriend, you know, sitting with your autonomy, that you have to be, the medication, because you're not blaming them on their life, they're equally exhausted. So to be able to say, hey, I need dinner, I need a break, or I need a return, if they're doing good work on your mental health.
Always want to carry the loss out of
The other thing is, I think that
you are as on you.
speak up.
I eat a farm, you know, station wagon. I need 20 bags of
In my experience, having been open, part of the struggles I had.
It's all
Life insurance, you can either meaning you have mental health care. So I think the shine a light on this because the difference between diagnosis and extreme behavior and so different issues. And right there, medication, all these things, people can be very so this is a reflection of an antiquated view of mental health and how we change the radiation. Okay. So, conservatorships are supposed to be a last resort for those who can't take care of themselves. That's what they're about. So what do you make of these cases? And this gets you legally to one. Yeah, well, this is completely unprecedented.
Just like a ferry. It's like saying say you bury it, or it's on the high somehow it's on the other side of the highway. Somehow save on the other side of the highway. And what's catching in there, well, it's all that, you know, well, process to it. Yeah, what's kind in there is a process. When they say it on it, it's like brushing nose. Somehow it's on the other side of the highway where nobody lives. Like this on the other side of the highway where nobody lives.
She can't stop her there. Something. She had none of that, so I have to agree with Sally. This is really an aspect of mental health. Because we remember, in 2008, we saw mental breakdown. And so, 14 years later, being under person is just highly unusual. But one thing I mentioned is the standard how it works to how that's put in place these types of conservatorship is really high. It's clear convincing evidence that there is an issue to such an extent that these things in place. So I have to imagine, I haven't seen all of it in this case, but in 2008, there was that type of evidence that a judge felt she needed to be protected. I don't know that that is
Oh, I
necessarily 13 years later.
Well, probably.
Something must have been really, she must have been in trouble 13 years
I'm
later.
not somebody, I'm Marcus, I'm not.
Well, that's.
You better be Marcus.
Do you think she made a context to drop the concern?
Yes, sir.
Or not? Like, okay, let's try testimony. Yes, was another statement that she made, to the point. Most of the Christians are for people who are homeless, and we don't work, we have, to be taken advantage of.
And that's not really a good deal. That's like a good deal.
And to give this wrong, tens of millions of dollars for casino, for managers, for farmers, to be able to take their everything. Begging to get off of me and talking about the condition, interviewing conditions she's being subjected to. Because if you're a vegetarian, and if it's still being butchered, you think she is in a way that's that.
New age perfect midnight sale from Oregon with our exclusive antioxidant complex. Where it goes millions and listening services, here's my skin rejuvenating every night. See fewer wrinkles, firmer, radiant, melanated skin. And it's preferred to the number one luxury beauty salon. New age perfect midnight sale from L'Oreal Paris because you know all of it.
They put arms, she's put on breakfast last night. Also, and funny,
Dawn antibacterial.
this year, facial was coming so much.
It also removes
When y'all refund done,
Dawn antibacterial. And it's just, it's not going to wash your hands.
when you got a refund for it, I never did. But anyway, I did something wrong.
It's not because you never clean the channels, you know what it's wrong. So, I don't know what's
Yeah, but- Give it on. Okay, this is my, sorry, whatever, that was better.
My tip is try not
And adopted 360 Day. Campers Cruisers 360 Day. Up here, success depends on the choices you make. But I know I've got this. And when it comes to controlling his type 2 diabetes, my dad's got this too.
The right choices can help you to control your A1C. That's what the choice can help. Most people taking Trulicity reach an A1C under 7%, and it starts lowering blood sugar from the first dose by helping your body release insulin. It's already there. Trulicity is for type 2 diabetes. It isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. It's not good for infants and children. Don't take Trulicity if you're allergic to it. You and your family have metabolic body cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Stop Trulicity, call your doctor right away if you have an allergic reaction. First one, severe stomach pain, changes in vision, or diabetic retinopathy. Serious side effects include every time you take Trulicity, it's fun, insulin resistance, blood sugar, side effects include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, which means dehydration, and worsen kidney problems. Show the world is truly inside. Ask your doctor about what's in Trulicity. You can't outrun who you really are. She's gonna keep sneeze around her, only trying for her life. Is it possible you just don't know access to that one?
Still ahead, Zoe, graduated superstar Hamilton. Let's leave you to hear talk about a very latest production that's really one from the heart.
So we've been talking about the latest developments in reference to introducing so to the show. Here to fill us in on all the details is the story editor of the New York Times and co-creator of the documentary Planet Britney Spears, Liz Day. Welcome to the show. So nice to have you here.
And Peter Friendly here.
Okay, so it's not premiere in February, and there's still a lot of buzz about the situation with Britney's continued conservatorship. Oh, we see largely by her father Jamie's theories. Yesterday, for the first time, she spoke directly to the court, and the magnitude of what she said shocked a lot of people, including people on our show. Who listened in on her testimony, tell us something that stood out for most of you, and do you think it was a good idea for her to do this publicly?
So I'm also still in shock. Brittany dropped some major bombshells. She said, I just want my life back. I truly believe this conservatorship is innocent. My dad and anyone involved in this conservatorship should be in jail. I deserve to have the same rights as anybody does. It was really chilling. And most notably, she said that she didn't know that she had filed to end the conservatorship in the last 13 years, which is incredibly shocking. And another thing that she said is that she's never spoken out about it before. She didn't feel like she believed. So I think it was a good idea for her to speak publicly, for people to hear directly from her.
Liz, you know those people in your information, you know, taking from that programs. You can also see that use radio story blogs here, what we want some prices to learn about this.
So the entire time we were doing our research for the documentary and in our reporting, we heard a lot of times that, Brittany wants to be in it. This is good for her, if she wanted to get out of it, she would have filed to get out of it. And what we discovered, we the New York Times and these confidential court records is that actually privately behind closed doors, she's been pushing for ending for a really long time, much longer ago than anyone knew. She's even questioning her father's fitness as her conservator distributing.
Brittany's father, James Spears, has been charged for conservatorship, says the lawyer, that he starts to see his daughter our contemplating grant for a lot of people on right now is very much like yesterday. Apparently, the state of California is not allowing open slavery to happen, and her family has their slave owners about to go on checks. What Brittany says is that her reads like human rights for her, and again, I do a lot of work
right? Basically, like less emotions, she's isolated, medicated, more forward against the will, passes reproduce, level of anxiety control, in the hearing, she says, well, it's an embarrassment and demoralizing, and that's the main thing I've never said in lately. I wanted to leave the getting what it means to me. What does it say about our society and our culture at this time, not wanting to hurt justice with it? And do you think it's hard for our state to do this to African Americans? Don't do it right now, because I don't believe she's saying, I don't believe what she's saying right now, these are people that she's got to mother her, and honestly, they know this, they're going to kill themselves.
Yeah, there's been a lot of interesting discussion out there where people are pointing out about the way she was treated 20 years ago, and how that would never happen today, but I think it also.
Well, they were on such
We might be getting this sort of treatment
well,
today.
and she's up front for some, coffee with Mexico. They were on, said like this, yes, on fire, so.
Rights issues of it all, and
Well, they do a study at the administration, hospital, doctors, why they're, not just why they're, that's one of the supplies that disparity in income are or small, Asian people use, whatever, substances. If you're any money, you use your substance, you got too much money.
So I'm not sure anyone who knows, really noted that she herself.
Or these people are
Research and her cases, judge has created a consortium without the person having to undergo.
they can estimate the earnings.
Governor also noted that the judge's branch that if no one in the family proceed to suggest
Some
that.
people are gas on fire, or some study.
Talking about claims of.
So, that's the question, why they serve a bar, how can they use it? You're taking care of ourselves, or Ricky, or Bonnie, all these other guys, they're working at AMC, structure.
But I would say that, experts.
And they work with AMC now, structure.
Interest when he
They're
is.
talking about
So if she signs up for her.
Oh, it's, most things.
Whereas if you don't get it,
And see, we still need to construct at the point of level. And it's
But something that's very interesting was after Brittany spoke, there was a recess, and when the court returned, Brittany's court counsel said that she
famous,
So,
they want to go there,
they seem to suggest
they're
that.
part of the struggle process. Okay, she did it, and they broke her, and smacked her, so, okay, she has to take her time to lawsuit, and they brought her, and smacked her, so,
How much credit do you give us for starting to bring these issues like?
and they're all, it's still living, it's called, $500,000. Oh my goodness, still living, it's called $500,000. A living, of course, she didn't have a handsome living, she didn't have a handsome living of $6 million, but no, she's got a top money problem.
We don't really know where those are, right? Or have they been forced to detention of the court and their records?
So a lot of the records and documents and what's been happening in the court is.
Well, she just doesn't have the cash on the property outright. Or she has the cash on the property.
So it's still an open conversation.
Or she has the cash on the
Instead of thinking about what revenues is going, we don't know all the time, but it's an interesting story.
Yeah, you don't know what people
And thank you for coming on and illustrating the New York Times.
Just give one
events.
that's from the college or wherever.
Experience documentaries, sitting down on Hulu, how they get to sit down, we'll be right back.
relationship that matter. Radiance.
Good, right? The thing they got supposed to have was living property. Then all they gotta do is like that. Yeah, it's like it's a little different than one of my games. One breadwinner per household. Like when your boys are like, the boys are son and then a household and family. Not gonna just fire it. And, that you go to jobs. Have some, excellent and kind of into their knowledge. And I try to send one to girls, mother, Mexican, or, I'm not gonna fire that. Home, like, they run around, so I gotta, see, that guy's that much called fool, do that. Watch that with it. I'm like, everybody in your household work. Engage. Very good. Nobody does that. They're all just parasites.
It's a simple fact. Nothing feels worse. It's a simple fact. Even though the COVID-19 virus, science reports these simple facts. There's only one true Lysol. Lysol, what it takes to protect. How's the menopause going? Unexpected rage, hot flashes, exhaustion, big bang. Hair to be tired all day, and not at night. Said no one ever. Estrogen relieves major menopause symptoms. Banana Boat sunscreen is all about protecting a fun odor. From making a splash bomb to exploring the room from our sunscreen is filtered and free friendly. Banana Boat sunscreen lasts as long as the month. This is soft. Excuse me. Oh, I'm back, everybody. Carvana, a company who invented carbon because used in biocarbon 100% online, now created a brand new way for you to sell your car. Whether it's a year old or 2 years old, we want to buy your car. So go to Carvana and enter your license plate, get your car, and our techno wizard recalculates your car's value and gives you a real estimate in seconds. When you're ready, pay on the spot and pick up your car. That's it. So ditch the old ways on your car and face the most today way at Carvana.
It's none of your business, and so, having more than like it's your business. You are right.
You look nothing like your profile picture.
Take your phone. Better girls, what are your first movie? Smart speaker. How about you put that thing in good use and listen to KG95? Just say your speaker's name and it's a listening. KG95.
to from inside the building says that it felt like an earthquake. And someone else living nearby says the ocean current name of the building collapsed like a pancake. Venezuela, Santiago, Washington, in Surfside, Florida, is joining us once again. Lola, how is the bad weather that kind of blew in very quickly, how is that impacting these efforts?
That is one added challenge for search and rescue teams that are right now among the debris, trying to see what they find under this debris that has been left behind by this partial building collapse. I can tell you the latest information that's just coming in is the Miami-Dade commissioners from CNN that they have 51 individuals unaccounted for. Now that number stems from the reports to a hotline that the county set up. So we know, as you mentioned, there are dozens who have not been accounted for. We also know that they had 45 people that they rescued when this building collapsed, 2 of which were pulled from under the debris. So the search continues, but there are big challenges. They have a building that is still very much not stable, and they're concerned. They have rain that is coming in, but it is a massive response. The mayor says that she feels confident that they have the equipment and the resources they need, that she is hopeful that they will be able to save any lives that they possibly can. Let me tell you a little bit more about this building. This is a building that was built in the 80s. It has 140 units, and according to the mayor, nearly half of them collapsed overnight. I spoke to one man who was inside when this happened. He talked about the relief he felt when firefighters got to his balcony. Listen to the rest of this.
The rumbling was very different, very strange, and something was not right in the sound. It was too strong, too violent. It almost felt like a shockwave.
I work down the hallway, and it's a very long hallway, probably 100 yards, 75 yards, and there was nothing there. It was just a pile of dust and rubble and paint falling from the ceilings. I thought that any minute we could be that same pile of rubble.
It just got louder and everybody started panicking and we grabbed children and we started running out to the door, and as we went down the stairway for the exit emergency ramp, everybody was screaming and panicking. As we got down to the lobby, it was probably the longest for enough for the dust to debris.
I spoke to a woman who was walking back home from her job when she says the building collapsed, and what she described was the dust. The dust took over the area and spread for blocks. We should mention that there is also a small hotel right next to this building. The evacuation has been completed of that building, and those folks are now being helped.
Well, thank you so much for your reporting. We're going to get back to Leila. As the news develops, back with me now is Tom Van Essen, former FDNY commissioner who led search and rescue operations in New York after 9/11 attacks. You know, Commissioner, I was just looking, and Governor DeSantis said just a little while ago that the way he put it is, we're bracing for some bad news, or just given the destruction that we are seeing in the videos and pictures. And the mayor of Surfside seemed to suggest the same, that just because of the way the building, he said, just panicking, it's leading him to think that they are not going to be successful in finding people alive. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's, right now, too soon to think we're not going to find people alive, but I know it's not too soon to know for a fact we're going to find more people that aren't. Not everybody could have survived that, and there's had to be a lot of people in that building. If 55 or 60 units fell at 2 in the morning in a building with how many of contact more than 50 people a day. So I know that there's going to be more mentality. And the rescue is safe, the family's safe, they're about rescues. And I think they will be. I know, the night of September 11th, they told us that there would be no survivors. And I was in shock. Given, collapse experts tell us that. It was because of the weight and the compaction of the debris, and it was so dense and the height. But I think this building, you have hope that there will be people that are underneath some heavy piece of material that they are breathing. And so that if we can get those folks, I hope they're gonna survive. They could be like, we don't know. But we need to act as if there's the risk of, and then we can, it's about save as many people.
Yeah, that's exactly, the mayor said something this morning kind of about what he saw happen, and I want to play that for you, John, to get your take on this.
There's no reason for this building to go down like that unless someone literally pulls out the supports from underneath, or they get washed out, or there's a sinkhole, or something like that, like it just went down.
And now we've since then, we've seen that surveillance video of the glass. I mean, what could have caused this?
I really don't know. I wish I had expertise to give you that answer. To me, it looks like a controlled demolition. Of course it was. It looks like when they go up an old casino or something. I've seen a building like that at the World Trade Center, number 7, drop from burning all day, and we couldn't put the fire out. Or a building that collapsed because there's a plane crash, or there's an enormous amount of storm or something. How that much of a building could collapse so quickly with no warning? It just doesn't make any sense to me, but there are engineers maybe and
Yeah, we will eventually find out, but it defies logic and all rational thought when you see that surveillance video and how it went down in literally the middle of the night. Commissioners, thank you so much for coming on, I really appreciate it. As we mentioned, 51 people unaccounted for still. These urgent search and rescue efforts continue. We're going to continue following this, much more heartbreaking news. Thanks.
Life can be a lot to handle. This magic moment. But there's still imagining all that chaos.
When did you see the time?
When I came to Desert Sales. Those tenants are in. Help people find their way. That Signs is on new directional signage and got them back on track. Get started at thatsigns.com.
There's interest you crew and interest you pursue. Plans for the long term and plans for a long weekend. Assets you allocate and loans you hold tight. At Thrive, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. And with the right guidance, you can get the financial clarity you need and live a life rich in meaning and gratitude. To learn more, text Thrive to 444-555 or visit thriving.com.
Tonight, I'll be eating a veggie cheeseburger on ciabatta. No tomato.
Tonight, I'll be eating pork cheese tortellini with texture.
So it's going to be.
Thank you. Robert.
Yes, that is not here to say, oh, I tell you.
What are you talking about?
There's more to investment than money, which is why we don't just invest in business. At the Public Investment Fund, we invest in something far more important. We invest in people. We invest in human ambition, in human futures, in human success, because we want a brighter future for everyone. Public Investment Fund, funding new human futures.
People everywhere living with type 2 diabetes are waking up to what's possible. With Rybelsus. Rybelsus works differently than any other diabetes drug to lower blood sugar in all 3 of these ways. Increases insulin, decreases sugar, and slows. The majority of people taking Rybelsus lower their blood sugar and reach an A1C of less than 7. People taking Rybelsus lost up to 8 pounds. Rybelsus isn't for people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis. No tape professes that you or your family ever had major thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine-neoplasia type 2 or an allergy to. Stop the process and get medical help right away for your lumbar swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking the process for the symbolic ingredient more insulin increases blood pressure risk. Side effects of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, mainly dehydration, and may cause some kidney problems. Wake up to what's possible with You can pay as little as $10 per prescription. Ask your healthcare provider about Rybelsus today. Keeping the Oyster business growing as you sponsor. Need to hire. I think Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from a resume database. Then your $75 credit. Post your first job at Indeed.com/growing.
There's no other step like a planter's cashew. What else can go from your car's cup holder to a crystal bowl that seem equally colorful? I guess the most well-rounded snack isn't round at all. It's more cashew shaped. Planters on the other.
Family good, math fair, style fair, math fair, you fair, math fair. These all beautiful tiles that fit perfectly over your old one with no mess or debt. Get the bath you want in a day with quality that lasts a lifetime. It just fits. Bath fair. Bath Flavors hiring installers. You have your own company with a strong culture and great benefits. Find out where you fit at joinbathfair.com. Closed captioning brought to you by Guild. Visit Guild.com today for up to 70% off designer brands.
At Guild.com, get insider access to company designers like Valentino, Club, and more. At 70% off retail prices. Visit Guild.com today.
At this hour, we're keeping a close eye on the White House, where in just moments, President Biden is going to be holding a critical meeting with lawmakers on infrastructure negotiations. Last night, a bipartisan group of senators announced a breakthrough, an agreement on a framework for an infrastructure package they believe Democrats, Republicans, and the White House can't support. But as Lonnie Rogers is reporting, they are far, long way from any finish line at this moment. Joining me right now for some perspective is Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar from Texas. Congressman, this is still a far way from the finish line, but any kind of bipartisan breakthrough, I guess, is a big deal in this Congress. So much of this agreement is still not known, but is this, do you believe, the start of an actual, real bipartisan deal?
Just the fact that it's bipartisan, that's a good step forward, and I'd rather have things that are bipartisan passed through the U.S. Congress instead of just making it a Democratic or Republican proposal. So I am very optimistic about this. It'll be interesting to see exactly what they have, because I've talked to some of the folks, and coming up with a infrastructure bill is easy. Coming up with how do you pay for that becomes a little bit more difficult.
And that really is where the tension and conflict has been of recent. Do you think that really does come down to what the critical piece is that's going to decide if this is going to move ahead or not, how to pay for it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's going to be the most difficult part of it. I mean, we can all come up and talk about hybrids, we can talk about block budget, we can talk about the infrastructure that we need to address. That can be worked out what amount, but how do you pay for it is always the most difficult. I've seen that. I've seen this so over the years with different chairmen of the infrastructure, transportation and infrastructure. They can come up with a bill, but how do you pay for it is always the most difficult part of it.
Let's talk about the immigration crisis at the border right now. Kamala Harris is headed to the border tomorrow. It's something you have been asking her to do for months. I heard you say this morning that you think that she's going to the wrong location. What do you mean?
Well, I wouldn't call it the wrong location. I'm glad that she's going down to the border. But if you want to see the real activity, you have to go down to my district, which is the Rio Grande Valley. That is where the on-traffic tickets are coming in. That's where the traffic units are coming in. That is coming in. Where we have people from almost 150 countries who are coming in. So if you want to go up there, you have to sit down where the activities is at. But again, it's the first step. I'm not criticizing her. I'm glad that she's going to the border, but the real activity is about 800 miles plus from the clock.
And look, I have tracked, you've been very outspoken about this crisis, and you're clearly not happy with how the Biden administration has been handling not only, I would say, this visit, but the problem more broadly to this point. What do you want to see from the administration? What do you want to hear from Kamala Harris?
Well, look, I've been very supportive of the President Biden, the way they've been handling so many other things, vaccines and so many other things, including infrastructure. I've been very supportive. But on the border, again, I speak from somebody that doesn't go and spend a couple hours and think that I know more than I have time experiences. And I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about the mayors, the judges, the landowners, the border patrol, the men that are down there. And I want them to understand that when Democrats talk about the issue, they only talk about the push factors, what happens in Central America. Republicans only talk about the pull factors. In my opinion, I think we need to talk about the push factors and the pull factors. One of the pull factors, for example, have you noticed that no Democrat really talks about deportation? Our law calls for deportation. We only see people coming in, but the law says that if people stay, they stay. But if people are not allowed to stay under asylum, for example, they need to be deported. I'll say this final point. If you have 100 people that ask for asylum, like 88%, maybe 85% of them are going to be rejected. And only 12% will be allowed in. So why are we allowing 100% of the people in when the law says that we should be deporting 85, 88% of them?
Well, right, this is a bigger conversation we should have, but part of that is the years-long backlog of immigration for asylum cases, taking years for them to actually get through that, and that is part of what fixes that you want to see happen in a broader sense. Thank you for coming in, I appreciate it. Coming up, we actually have more breaking news coming in after this hour about former President Donald Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani. A ruling by a New York court just coming in. We'll bring those details in.
You need a financial plan that can help grow and protect your money. And annuity can cover essential expenses in retirement so you can live the life you want. This is what an annuity can do. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
When it's time to go, find your Mexican ranch Trivago with deals from your favorite cooking site all in one place. Time to go, Trivago.
Is now a good time for a flare-up?
Enough drugs.
For adults with moderate to severe Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, Stelara can provide relief and is the only approved medication to reduce inflammation on and below the surface of the intestine and UC. You gotta get on that robotics back off, see?
Stelara may increase the risk of infection, some serious, and cancer. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, loose skin growths, have had cancer, or if you need a vaccine. PRES, a rare potentially fatal brain condition, may be possible. Some serious allergic reactions and lung inflammation can occur.
Lasting remission can start with Stelara. If you've been financially impacted by COVID-19, Janssen may be able to help.
What can I do for you, sir?
I'm creating a courtroom. I would like to move rational.
Welcome to 2021.
This is only just as long as it's available that
It's less than I have 7 years. No cancellation. Flexible cancellation. Kayak, search one and done.
Because without you, it's just work. Join us pioneering human beings.
Is correct.
Those who oh my God, what is happening? A social democracy, the roots of Trump's insurrection, tomorrow at 10.
So market considers after a frankly attractive offers on the tables. At Global Heating and Cooling, your comfort is our priority. In the heat of summer, we'll ensure you're staying cool and comfortable. If you notice an increase in utility costs, unusual noises, odors, or your AC is just not keeping you comfortable, contact Global for a free replacement consultation. Visit globalheating.com today.
Fourth in America, live July 4th and 7th on CNN.
Good breaking news just into CNN. Rudy Giuliani's law license in the state of New York has been suspended. That means, at least for now, he can no longer practice law in the state where he was once a top prosecutor and also mayor of America's biggest city. CNN's Paula Reed joining me now for more. Paula, tell us more. All right, Kate, I've been working through this 33-page opinion from a state appellate court that ruled that Giuliani must be stripped of his law license for pushing falsehoods to support his client, former President Trump, and false allegations about the 2020 election. Now, pretty stunning language in this opinion. This panel found that Giuliani made false and misleading statements to the courts, to lawmakers, and the public at large in his capacity as an attorney for former President Trump and the Trump campaign in connection with the 2020 election. The court concluded that his conduct immediately threatens the public interest and warrants his suspension. Now, prior to this, he has had a lengthy career in New York law. He was first in law in 1969 for the Justice Department. He was, of course, the mayor of New York. And more recently, he has been representing former President Trump in various legal issues. Now, this all came about after the attorney grievance panel received numerous complaints. They conducted an investigation, and here they decided he should be serving his license. Paula, thank you so much for that. Joining me right now is CNN's senior legal analyst, Ellie Koenig, on this. Ellie, what's your reaction?
Okay, this is a new low, really a stunning fall for Rudy Giuliani. As Paula said, there was a time, I know it's hard to remember now, when Rudy Giuliani was one of the most respected lawyers and prosecutors in the country. He was the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, an office I worked in several decades later, and now he's been kicked out temporarily, all practicing law in New York State. That's a very big deal. And as Paula said, this is based on very clear-cut findings by a panel of state judges. This isn't just sort of other people who may argue their parts. This is a group of judges who found that he made demonstrably false statements meant to prop up a live election fraud in order to promote Donald Trump's interests and in injuring the public.
How unusual is this?
Very unusual. I mean, I don't personally know anybody who's ever been suspended for practice like this in New York. It certainly happens, but it's very, very rare. Lawyers, look, the fact is, can get away with quite a bit. I mean, you're a lawyer, your job is to zealously represent your client. A lot of times your client maybe has done wrong. But what you cannot do as a lawyer is just lie. You can't public interest, as this court found Rudy Giuliani did. So this does not happen every day by any stretch. This is a very rare thing and a very extreme thing for the court to do.
Oh, and Ellie, Rudy Giuliani is under criminal investigation, but this really isn't related to that. This is about Giuliani pushing President Trump's big lie.
Yes, one of many problems Rudy Giuliani has right now is suspended from practicing law in the state of New York. He also separately is under criminal investigation by that same federal prosecutor's office that he used to lead, that I mentioned before, the Southern District of New York, relating to his work
on behalf potentially of Ukraine relating to that scandal. So Rudy Giuliani's got all sorts of problems. This is another one to add to the list.
And he, to get his license.
So this is a temporary suspension for Rudy Giuliani. The order said if Rudy Giuliani wants to essentially appeal this, wants to have a full-out hearing, he has the right to request that. So we'll see if he requests that or not. I mean, that hearing could get really ugly for him. So he'll have to make a decision, do I just accept this sort of temporary suspension and let it remain in place, or do I fight it and we'll have a whole hearing? Not so sure he wants to go down that path given the movements that we've already seen.
But want to venture to guess how Rudy Giuliani is going to respond to all of this?
On the one hand, Rudy Giuliani is a fighter and always likes to fight back. On the other hand, maybe he's smart enough to realize that he's going to be picking a losing fight here.
Maybe he has bigger problems right now that he could be looking at. Ellie, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks, Kate.
So we are going to continue following the breaking news out of South Florida. Coverage of this just tragic building collapse continues. 50 people reported as unaccounted for. 1 person reported dead. 2 people were pulled out of the rubble, and they're up against not only the clock, a race against time, they're also facing really bad weather, which is hampering efforts of the search and rescue crews. But we are live on the scene. We will head back over the very latest after a quick break.
5 years ago, I told you your mattress was awful. Remember this day? And we're still using Ryan's, yes. Are you still sleeping on that hot, sticky memory foam mattress? You should take my advice and buy the only mattress with a purple grid. Because the purple grid inside the purple mattress isn't like all those other mattresses using the same memory foam, which is salty, angry, and remembers things, apparently. We're going to talk about $350 off full expense and American-made mattresses.
Welcome back, America. It sure is good to see you.
Online dating? I know people think that way, but where would I even begin?
Open laptop, go to OurTime.com, look for free. It's easy to take a look on Our Time, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
This July 4th, let's pause and show our spirit across this land. Let's get ready to celebrate the family, good friends, and lots of fun. You work hard out here, so let's come together as a community and make the most of our summertime. Independence Day is upon us. Let's show what it means out here. Tractor Supply.
I want to get your next protein with 30 grams of protein because you're trying to become more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Get your next protein with 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and nutrients to support immune health. The Real authenticated luxury resale. Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Gucci, and more. Shop with us, up to 90% off retail. Sell with us, earn up to 3 times more. Dream with us. Sell with us this month and receive an exclusive offer.
Introducing the new Bud Light Seltzer Retro Summer.
Television clearing out, okay.
It's the last day to enter the week. $1,000 in pay for life on June 30th. Better now at PCH.com.
Top line is heartburn you can plan for, but surprise pizza with heartburn you didn't expect. New Zantac 360 degrees contains the #1 doctor recommended prevent and relieve heartburn and works in as little as 15 minutes. New Zantac 360.
Here's my dress. What's that?
Damp
Damn real. You get rid of musky odors.
How? Damper attracts excess moisture.
Eliminating the source of musky odors.
Mustiness, gone. Okay, I'm Jackie Cummins.
Everything was the first flavor to rise in our
About sex. I don't think there's anything special about it. We can roll around on that. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Girls can do anything. across the mall. She was a voice.
Is it podcast and was accurate or frankly accurate for attracting offers on the RTX?
Did you know that every single flush brings odors onto your soft surfaces? Then they get released back into the air, so you smell them later. And right, that's why Breeze created small spaces. Press button and watch it get to work. Unlike the leading comb, small spaces continuously eliminate odors in the air and on surfaces, so they don't come back for 45 days. Just imagine what it can do to other odors.
On democracy, the roots of Trump's insurrection, tomorrow at 10.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Dana Bash in Washington. John King is off today. A horrifying scene out of Miami. A building collapses, killing at least one person. 50 plus people are unaccounted for. More on that story in minutes, but we're going to start with other breaking news. A New York court says Rudy Giuliani repeatedly lied. And because of that, he can no longer practice law. We'll go straight to CNN's Paula Reed. So Paula, why did the court rule the way it did?
Kind of, this is a stunning development for a man who was once one of the nation's top law enforcement officials. Now, in its opinion, this state appellate panel concluded that there was uncontroverted evidence that Giuliani communicated demonstrably false and misleading statements to courts, to lawmakers, and to the public at large in his capacity as a lawyer for former President Trump and the Trump campaign in connection with Trump's failed effort at re-election in 2020. They concluded that what he did is a threat to the public interest, which is why he has now been suspended from the practice of law. Now, it is not easy to have your license suspended in this way. This all came about after the bar received multiple complaints, conducted an investigation, and came to this result. But we're actually expected to see Mr. Giuliani in just a few hours. He is due to appear in federal court here in Washington, D.C. to defend against a defamation suit brought by the union voting systems. So we may have a chance to ask him to react to this incredible development. He first joined the bar in 1969. He's had a lengthy legal career. He was in the Justice Department for a while. Of course, he was famously the mayor of New York. And then he's been representing former President Trump in various legal issues. So this is a stunning way to cap off what historically has been a pretty glittering career. For the past several years, he has increasingly had more and more legal issues, in addition to the defamation suit, the suspension. He also has an ongoing federal investigation in New York.
Paula, thank you so much for that report. I want to bring in my panel who is here with me, and I'm going to start with you and read something else from the document, because this is about Rudy Giuliani, but it's also even more so about the big lie. So this document says, one only has to look at the ongoing present public discord over the 2020 election, which erupted into violence, insurrection, and death on January 6, 2021 in the U.S. Capitol, to understand the extent of the damage that can be done when the public is misled by false information about the elections. That is pretty damning and very accurate.
Yeah, 100% accurate. I mean, there are consequences to these lies. As for so many months, the president and his allies, chief among them, Giuliani, have been lying with impunity about all kinds of things, and then doing so in legal proceedings. You have to wonder, is there any sort of recourse for that? I mean, can someone say that they're a lawyer, practice law in this country, while also doing something that is provably false? I think this court ruling makes that clear that there are consequences for Giuliani and probably for others as well. There are defamation cases, there's real damage that was done, not just to lives, but also to livelihoods for the companies that were slandered, frankly, by a web of conspiracies and lies that were made up out of whole cloth by the president of this office.
I think for Trump's allies especially, you have to wonder whether they're sitting there now thinking, how far am I willing to go to push Trump's lies about the election? Especially some of these guys who are running primary races, trying to run for higher office. Are you willing to lose your license? Are you willing to lose your Twitter account in the name of these lies that the former president has spread? So, maybe they'll be thinking twice now, seeing that there are repercussions.
And it's not just there are federal courts that are now starting to sentence some of those in the January 6th riot. And Royce Lambert, a judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, was a real pain in the butt to Bill Clinton's administration yesterday in sentencing one of those rioters, singled out congressional Republicans who are trying to rewrite the January 6th history. He said, I don't know what planet they were on, the Republicans who are trying to defend this. And he said that attack was, quote, intended to halt the very functioning of the government. So the whole legal system is now starting to shift.
Well, I think what's so stunning about this is that when you cover Trump, and as a lot of us have for several years, you realize that people around him think that they're untouchable. They start to think that more and more, the more they're in his inner circle, and it is something that happens with people in the White House, people on Capitol Hill, his attorneys. They think that they can do and say whatever they want, and because they're in this orbit that he operates in, there are no consequences for what they say and for what they do. This is showing that's not true. But also, just to step back, there are so many crazy things that happen that I think it's easy to not be surprised by something like this happening. This is incredible. Rudy Giuliani has been a bar attorney for decades. He was the mayor of New York during 9/11 and helped steer the city out of that. To see the rise in that way, in the fall in this way, is amazing. That the former president's former attorney, no longer can represent his clients in court of law, now is on his law license, is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, but let's be honest. This is kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. Giuliani has been doing unethical things on behalf of his client, Donald Trump, for a long time. Trump was impeached twice over these kinds of shenanigans. But I also want to just say to your point, PK, about Republicans on Capitol Hill, I think that there's a sentiment among some Republicans, people like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and others who kind of like flirt on, Congressman Stefanik, who flirt on this line and say, well, there were irregularities. We don't think that election officials should have been able to change these rules. Those are all kind of euphemisms for the broader lie framework that all of this is sitting on top of. It's not okay to just say, oh, well, there were irregularities and we have questions. The questions are all based on the lie that we change that just not just part.
And the most important thing is, well, one of the most important things is the legal realm that we're talking about, but then it's the political realm. You guys walk the halls of Congress every day. Did you think that the members who are propagating the big lie are going to care that there is a real life consequence if you are someone like Rudy Giuliani? Will that trickle down to people who rely on voters and not, the court of law?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to look at this and just say, well, that's because he was playing a lawyer. He was playing the role of a lawyer. We're over here in politics and we get to do lies and distortions for a living, and there's no legal bar that says you've crossed the line. You only have your voters who are responsible to it. So we'll see. But the House Republican Conference continues to be very much in the former president's camp. They are, the Senate Republican Conference is very different. They are, they're 11 of them, I think, are down at the White House right now, meeting with President Biden. They're talking about bipartisanship. The House Republicans, they're still right there.
Okay, everybody stand by because we want to get down to Florida. In Miami this hour of a human tragedy happening in real time. Surfside, Florida, that is specifically where this happened, a condo building disintegrated. We saw grainy surveillance cameras capture the moment of collapse on video. I want to warn our viewers, the footage is really disturbing. It is silent because it is surveillance footage, but it is kind of hard to believe that this is actually happening. And that it was an accident, not something that we see when buildings are intentionally brought down. It's just hard to wrap your mind around. One area official now says 51 people are unaccounted for, though want to underscore that there is more unknown at this hour than known about the human toll and why this building folded on itself in the first place. The blast killed at least one, and rescuers are racing to pull people from the wreckage. Already teams have pulled 35 people from under the concrete, and we're hearing remarkable stories from the right.
I could hear somebody dying, screaming, this, a little boy, even more than his preteens. So then I saw an arm sticking out of the wreckage. He was screaming, "Can you see me?" He was just screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me."
Also accounts of near misses from inside the building. One resident said the collapse almost came from him.
When we walked out of our apartment and we were going to see how we were going to get out of the apartment, I looked down the hallway, and it's a very long hallway, probably 100 yards, 75 yards, and there was nothing there. It was just a pile of dust and rubble.
I want to bring in Craig Fugate. He was the FEMA director for 8 years through Joplin and tornadoes across the country, Hurricane Sandy and more. Before that, Craig, you were emergency management director in Florida for 8 years. Thank you so much for coming on. First question is, when you see this, particularly the graphic video that I just showed, the surveillance video of the collapse, what does it tell you at first blush?
This is going to be a very complex rescue and recovery operation. Fortunately, Miami-Dade County has one of FEMA's urban search and rescue teams. This is one of our premier rescue teams that designed and built for these types of rescues. And of course, in this event, they are activating locally. So as tragic as this is, you have some of the best trained teams in the world operating there on site right now.
Well, that is good news. More than 85 medical units are